Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and good evening as well. As we understand that people from across the world have logged in today. Thanks for joining this webinar. While we keep this free, it wouldn't be successful without your active participation. Topic today is risk management. Discussions are going to be very simple. Few lines about myself. I'm the COO and Head Sustainability Practice at Continuity and Resilience. In short, we call ourselves CORE. I have worked over 30 years in the industry. Some of my affiliations in front of you now. I'll be happy to be connected with you. Please feel free to send LinkedIn invitations. A little about ourselves. CORE, we are an ISO 22301 certified management consulting company. 4 main areas that we cover are business continuity management, crisis management, IT disaster recovery, and green IT and sustainability. To this portfolio, we have recently added information security as well. And in these areas, we consult, train, assess, and certify individuals as well as organizations. There are many definitions of risk. We will read few of these. Effect of uncertainty on objectives is a risk, or a deviation from the expected, which may be positive or negative, is a risk. Deficiency of information relating to an event, its consequence or likelihood. When we do not know the enemy, it's a risk. The impact or effect may be financial or non-financial. And as the organizational pyramid exists, 3 levels: strategic, tactical, and operational. The risk management can also be done at all these 3 levels. At the highest level, it is known as enterprise risk management. At lower levels, just risk management. The outcome of a risk or the impact of a risk may be positive or negative. And whatever we do in life, there is bound to be some risk. There is a saying, there is no gain without pain. Or in business, for achieving excellence, organizations, corporates will have to take risks. Whatever we do, at whichever level we may stand, there is bound to be a risk, some risks. We may not be able to eliminate, but our intention should be to be able to manage. So first, we will have to identify, and then we will have to prioritize or evaluate, and then we will have to control and put mitigations in place. Intention on this slide, which is from US and bit old also, but I believe still holds good. Intention here is to say that whatever we do, wherever in life, there is going to be a risk. Risk cause is something that leads to the source of risk, to an exposure to it, or to a risk event. Cause can also be called contributory factor. Risk factor is something that makes the magnitude of risk higher or lower without being specifically a cause. Control failure, on the other hand, can be considered to be an uncertain event with an outcome that affects objectives. Have a look at this slide, please, this table. Very colorful. There are 6 columns: risk type, source, event or exposure, consequence, cause, and factor. And I'm picking up 4 examples for different types of risks. First one, safety. Person is working at a height, that is the source. What may happen is event or exposure that the person may fall. What could be the effect? Injury or death to the person. Death of the person. And the cause could be poor design. Factor is height from ground, whether the person was working from 5 feet, 15 or 50. Look at third example. Risk is finance. Source is interest rate, that it may rise more than 2% in a year. This risk directly affects the bottom line. The profits may fall. Next table, 6 columns, different types, categories. And in each category, different types, number of risks. So this makes it a universe of risks. I wouldn't claim that this is 100%, but this is comprehensive to start with. Taken care of, people, operations, competition, regulation, all. A very important point in risk management journey is the culture of the organization. How do we behave under uncertainty? How do we behave for compliance? And how do we behave with or when we face the negative outcomes? And in each of these 3 categories, there is a possibility of 2 different types of cultures. We may be conservative or we may be aggressive. Compliant or non-compliant. Learning culture or blaming culture. I didn't do, you did, or she did, or he did. I do not know. I was not involved. I was not consulted. No one told me. Blaming culture. So what is good, obviously, is aggressive, compliant, and learning. And this may not happen on day one. We may have to take the organization through a long journey. So risk management also is actually a change management program in the organization. The chain may look like this, made up of policies, procedures, systems, and treatment or controls. We may also have values, practices, behaviors, which make the culture of the organization. There is overall culture right inside of the slide, and within that, with the help of risk policy, risk procedures, systems, we want to develop the risk culture as well. I'm a practitioner, trainer and consultant all, assessor and auditor as well. My experience is that everyone knows their appetite, risk appetite, but no one knows. So there is a lot of improvement in required possible in most of the organizations. Everyone knows the risk appetite, but no one knows the risk appetite. If I challenge, I'm taken to the seniors, CEO or CFO, and they are smart, experienced people, good at their job. They explain it to me very well. That's good, but that's not good enough. A requirement now is, according to different management systems, there should be a process to establish risk appetite, a documented process. That process must be used to produce the risk appetite value, which must be documented and published and used. This value must be reviewed and refined over a period. At the same time, the process that was used to produce the risk appetite value, even that process needs to be reviewed and refined over a period. These are the good practices in different management systems around risk appetite. If you look at Microsoft Solutions Framework, some inputs available from there. Before a risk can be managed, it must be clearly and consistently expressed in the form of a risk statement. I first need to admit that I have a challenge in hand. If I do not admit, then I most likely will not be able to manage it well. My way of saying is that there is a lesson to be learned from animals when it comes to risk management. And the lesson is from a hypothetical story, I believe, of a pigeon and a cat. And it goes like this. When a pigeon sees a cat, it closes its eyes, believing that the cat has disappeared. This is ignoring the risk. Cat doesn't disappear. Cat actually pounces upon and eats up. The organization, the pigeon, ends up completely lost. Is never able to recover. So that's why it's so important to create the risk, to write the risks first of all. Let's not be pigeons when it comes to risk management. Generally, 3-4 steps in risk management. First of all, identification. Identification from the risk universe. There are so many different sources available. If I want to start, I may be a knowledgeable person. I may have an existing risk register. There may be other knowledgeable people around. There are books, white papers, websites, companies that can provide input to identification of risks. I then need to evaluate based on the likelihood and consequences. I may have 25 risks in all, very difficult to focus on 25. So I want to take out the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's through evaluation, which is done through likelihood and consequence. Once I know which risks to focus on, I then start going into mitigations. They may be existing controls. Then I look at the revised risk rating and putting more controls in place. The cycle will go on till the time my residual risk comes close to my risk appetite. This is how risk appetite value is used. So when you have all this information available in a document, maybe on a tool, it may be a Word document, a table in Word document, it may be an Excel sheet. The risk, source, type, likelihood, consequences, risk rating, mitigation, revised value, suggested additional mitigations, owner, expected closure date. This becomes your risk register. And again, like many other plans or documents in the organization, a risk register is not a stationary document. It's not one-time activity. It needs to be kept up to date. Likelihood may change. Consequences may change, based on which a risk may go off my radar. Whose baby is this? Everyone plays a role in risk management. From the senior-most person, the CEO, for example, to the head of risks, different units heads or department heads, to the junior-most person. While their involvement, their responsibility, their authority may be less at lower level and high at higher level. But everyone plays a role in risk management. That's a good practice. If you look at this definition coming from ISO 31000, systematic application of management policies, procedures, and practices to the activities of communicating, consulting, establishing the context, identifying, analyzing, evaluating, treating, monitoring, and reviewing risk is risk management. So it tells us that there's so much to be done. And the story perhaps starts from creating a policy first of all, followed by processes, templates, and guidelines. And then communication is very important during BAU. Communication becomes more important when we face a risk. So who will communicate what, to whom, when, and how? This needs to be taken care of. I will repeat. Who will communicate what, to whom, when, and how? We are taking care of the originator, the recipient, the audience, the content, the frequency, as well as the medium. The process includes identification, analysis, evaluation, response, control, monitoring, communication, reviewing, refining, and the cycle continues forever. Why should we do this? To help the line organization manage risks and identify new business opportunities in order to achieve its objectives. So risk management is directly linked with the objective of the organization. There is an opportunity in every risk or every crisis. And may be able to identify new opportunities. These are the benefits of implementing risk management. Also, why should we do this? Because we are always one disaster behind. We pick up some examples. I believe everyone knows tsunami today. But when was the first time we came to know about tsunami? I asked this question in all my face-to-face meetings, and the response is 2004, tsunami in Indonesia, when India and Sri Lanka also were impacted. But tsunami was not new. It's almost a regular activity in Japan and Indonesia. Tsunami at that time became the talk of the town. Everyone started talking, walking, working about tsunami. But what happened next was not tsunami. It was perhaps Katrina. And again, I'm not saying none, but many of us did not know Katrina. Katrina was not new. US, that particular coast, has a season of hurricanes. Katrina became the talk of the town. Everyone started talking, walking, working about Katrina. What happened next was not Katrina, but Rita. What happened next was perhaps terrorist attacks in different parts of the world. Terrorism became the talk of the town. What happened next was not terrorism, perhaps financial scams in different companies. Floods in different states, cities, and countries. Earthquakes in different parts of the world. Volcano eruptions which had never happened in the past perhaps has happened twice in the last 3-4 years. Volcano eruptions in Iceland. Civil unrest followed by power grid failures and cyber attacks of different types and some other IT failures. Based on this, I'm saying we are always one disaster behind. Even if we know these, we have faced and managed these, what will happen next, to whom, when, how, and with what intensity is not known to us. So we are always one disaster behind. That's why we should be prepared. At this time, I request Geeta, my colleague, to launch the first poll, please. question will soon appear on your screens. And the question I have in mind for you all is, are you aware of ISO 31000? You have question and options on your screens now, please. Select your option. Poll closing soon. Share the results also with us, please. This is how you have responded. %79% are aware of ISO 31000, which is a very good point. I have been delivering this webinar around ISO 31000 risk management building blocks for over 2 years, and I have been asking this question. It's going to see that this percentage of yes is increasing every time. For others, I suggest please buy a copy of 31000. It's a standard about risk management. Point to be said that this is not a certifiable standard. Moving on, quickly touch upon a few slides about 31000 also then. It's an international standard that provides principles and guidelines for effective risk management. Principles and guidelines. That's why this is not certifiable. These are not specifications or requirements. These are principles and guidelines. Applicable to all companies of all types in all sectors, all countries, whatever may be the nature of the business, whatever may be the size of the business, this standard is applicable equally. Contains generic approach as described in this standard. It provides the principles and guidelines for managing any form of risk in a systematic, transparent, and credible manner. It has principles, framework, and process. In summary, it gives you a structured, credible foundation for discussions with and about risk and risk management. Gives you a starting point for a risk management process. Gives you a standard vocabulary for talking about risk and risk management. And gives you a baseline for company comparisons and assessments of risk management processes. Next few slides coming up from a survey conducted by BCI recently. It's on supply chain risks in next 12 months. At the top, you would find IT telecoms outage, followed by adverse weather, outsourcer service failure, cyber attack, data breach, industrial dispute at the bottom. If you look, IT, telecoms outage, cyber attack, and data breach actually can be merged to make one just IT failure. And the bar will be much longer then. If we take the same scan horizon to next 5 years, we see little change, some change. Cyber attacks at the top, IT telecoms outage, data breach, Both merged together may make it bigger than cyber attack. A new entry at the bottom, act of terrorism. It's time. I request Geeta to launch second poll, please. Question in mind for you all is, are you aware of PAS 7000? Question in front of you. Please select your options. Poll closes in about 30 seconds. Results in front of you. Great number not aware of this yet. I'll spend some more time next few slides on PAS 7000 then. And again, for those who are not aware of this yet, please get hold of a copy. This is how the document looks like. PAS 7000 2014, which means it was released in 2014. The name is Supply Chain Risk Management Supplier Pre-Qualification. It's a product of BSI, British Standards Institution. PAS stands for Publicly Available Specification. It's kind of beta version of a British standard. So it's not a standard yet, but this has been published. This is out and available for use. If you look at the content, there's a lot with respect to supply chain. Equal opportunities, employment policies, business continuity management, supplier capabilities and capacities, business governance, supply chain traceability, health and safety, quality management, disciplinary practice and abuse, financial information and insurance, data protection, environment management, business ethics, organization profile, and supply chain security. PAS 7000 establishes a model of the governance, risk, and compliance necessary for buyers to pre-qualify suppliers and confirm their intention and ability to adhere to key compliance requirements. It provides a GRC passport, governance, risk, and compliance passport to doing business. It helps to answer 3 key questions about your supply chain. Who are they? Where are they? And can they be relied upon? I hope out of those 15 areas that it covers, you are able to recollect at least few. It contains business ethics, contains business continuity management, supply chain traceability, financial status, rules and regulations, equal opportunities, etc. Talking of risk management, ISO 31000, it's good today, these days, to touch upon other standards also which are close. ISO 22301, which is business continuity management, 9001, which is quality management, 14,001, which is environment management system, 27,001, which is information security management, BS 11,200 about crisis management, 22,318 is supply chain continuity, PAS 7,000 and ISO 31,000 we have just touched upon. So what is happening is that more and more management systems have started talking to each other now. So some organizations are attempting integration as well. Can we put third question to the audience, please? The question in mind is, was this webinar helpful? Short, simple, crisp. Was this helpful? Can we have your answers on the screens, please? Poll closing soon. Please select your options. And the results look like this. We are highly encouraged by this response. Thank you very much. But I'll repeat second time. And finally, before closing, I'll repeat this once again. While we keep these webinars free, these wouldn't be successful without your participation. So thanks to you all. Next question, please. Would you like us to invite your friends or colleagues to our future webinars, which we guarantee that we will always keep free? Options on your screen, select please. Thank you very much once again. Highly encouraging response. But we have a request to make them. Because we do not have their contacts with us, we request that you forward our invitations to them. We hope you have been receiving invitations from us on a regular basis. When you do receive next one, please forward to your friends, colleagues, anyone from anywhere can participate in these freely. Quick look at our key workshops. Five-day CBCA workshop based on BCI's GPG 2013, which is aligned to 22301. 5 days ERCA approved ISO 22301 lead auditor, 22301 lead implementer. First 3 5 days workshops. So it's at an expert level. Specialist level will be 3 days workshops. Crisis management specialist, move on around BS 11200. BCM specialist, move on around ISO 22301. ITDR specialist, BCS Foundation Certificate in Green IT, Certified Risk Management Specialist 2 days woven around ISO 31000. Few one-day workshops at professional level, BCM, ITDR, risk management, BCM for young professionals, etc. All these workshops can be scheduled in-house as well. If you have any questions around this, please write us info@continuityandresilience.com. You may write to Geeta or to me also. We'll be happy to respond. The last question for the day. Would you like to have more information about these workshops? And then we'll open the floor for questions also. So 5 questions were written as polls into this webinar to keep it interactive with you all. And after this, we will request you to type in your questions if you have any, and we will attempt to answer one by one. Would you like to have more information about our workshops? Thank you very much. A request to those who have said yes, please drop a small short mail to us. Which particular workshop would you like to be talked about? We'll be happy to provide full details to you. If you visit our website, you will be able to see a full calendar also for next couple of months. Learning sharing doesn't end with 40-45 minutes 1 hour discussions or webinar. I believe this is a continuous journey. I learned a little more even today, even while delivering this webinar. So let us stay in touch. My email ID in front of you now. Feel free to write to me. Feel free to get connected on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to respond to anything that you write to me within my capabilities. We have time for some questions. Please type questions on your screens. We'll pick up one by one. I'll wait for a few more seconds if there are any questions coming up before I wrap up. While we wait, if any questions coming up, I would like to thank you all. Third time, without your participation, our webinars will not be successful. So please look forward to next use and keep participating. Keep us. These are forever. No questions coming up. So a repetition. Even if you have one you would like to write later on, write to us please, and we'll be happy to respond. So with this, I would like to close this webinar today. Thank you very much. This is your host, Daman, logging off. Bye-bye.